Cora is a question and answer website with a fast-growing audience that currently sits over 300 million. Cora allows users to either post questions or write up answers to questions as they see fit. Questions are open to everyone, but if you follow certain influential people, you can request them specifically when you ask a question. Over the last year, I've gone from 0 to 2 million views on Cora, and in the process generated around $100,000 in profits. These include direct business for the companies where I work, freelance work offers, and partnership and collaboration opportunities. In the following lesson, I will walk you through exactly how I grew and monetized my profile and found success on Cora. This course will include both basics and more nuanced discussions. Unlike other content out there around Cora, this course is focused around using Cora for a monetary return as a business and is structured to provide actual examples of high-performing content, topics, and spaces to follow. If you're looking to leverage Cora for business, you're going to want to be answering lots of relevant questions and establishing yourself as a product expert. On Cora, a great way to start is by searching for relevant keywords in the area you want to write in. For instance, I work for a company that sells to a lot of SaaS, or software as a service companies. So I might start by just searching the word SaaS. This is a great way to see high follow count questions. Although we will dive deep into the ideal ratio between follower counts and answers later, in general, when you're starting out, higher follow count questions will give you more views and exposure than low ones. Follows essentially means people who have asked to be notified when a new answer appears to that question. If you know a question that you think you could get specific on, like how to best onboard new customers with SaaS, you can search and it will show the closest variance. Before you answer your first question, make sure to get your credential on your answer set up. This is an important part of increasing exposure to the brand you want to get out there. You can have a handful of credentials you use depending on the question. Here are some credentials from top users in the business world. Besides your credentials on your individual answers, it's advisable to set up your whole profile in advance too. Just click on your face icon in the top right and edit it. If people are intrigued by your answer, they may click your name to learn more, and you want to maximize any potential business impact from this. Here is my profile. Some things I identify in top profiles. Make your CTA clear. If you want people who view your profile to click to your business or check out a specific offer of yours, have the link be high up in your profile and clear to see. Keep it short. Like any social media, you have a fraction of a moment of your viewers' attention. Capitalize on it by getting a few key points across. Accomplishments. Some top profiles list out specific accomplishments, like taking a company public or reaching 100 million in ARR. This is a good strategy if you're very noteworthy in terms of your achievements, but again, keep it concise and remember the reader's attention span. In Cora, any question has a list of topics that are associated with it. Topics show up here. The more you answer questions around a certain topic, the more you can become a thought leader in that specific topic area, and the more other Corans will request answers from you. You can look any topic up and follow it, so your feed will become more curated to the types of posts that you want to see. You can also search for any post in that specific topic by going to the topic page. I always recommend starting by searching for questions or topics you know a lot about and answering questions there. Once you start answering a handful of questions there though, Cora will actively start showing you questions you might be interested in, or people who are directly asking you questions. Under the Answers tab at the top, you'll see Cora's recommendations based on topics you're frequently answering or spaces you're a part of. You'll see answer requests, which are people who directly ask you a question, and you will see answer later, which is something you can do to mark questions that you want to come back to. I have found these recommended questions tend to be lower follow count and in general aren't the best questions to maximize views and upvotes. But if you're feeling stuck on what questions to answer next, it's a great way to practice. The Answer Later tab is also a great way to gather interesting questions that you don't currently have the bandwidth to address. Just click on the 3 dots next to the question and mark Answer Later, and you can return to write up a response anytime by going back to your Answer tab at the top. Cora gives the ability for users to create spaces where people can share content around a certain niche. While topics are more of labels, think of a space as a group with an admin, contributors, etc. You can follow spaces that are relevant to your interests and then share your answers into those spaces after you finish writing them. To follow a space, search a term like startups or marketing related to where you want to write content. Then click to follow it. You will be able to see the total followers in that space. The higher the better. Typically shoot for groups with 10K plus followers. Like with any group though, how active people are is important as well. After you're following the space, you'll be able to share your answers to it. After writing an answer, simply click share at the bottom of your answer. Then you'll be able to see the spaces you follow to share to. Note if you follow, say, 100 spaces, it will only show the ones it thinks are most relevant, but you can still type in other ones and they will show up. When you share a post to a space, it must be approved by either a contributor, a moderator, or an administrator before going public to the group. If you are any of the aforementioned, your post will be auto-approved. If you post lots of high-quality content frequently, the admins may elect to make you a contributor. Whenever you write an answer, you'll be able to see at the bottom of your answer the total views, how many people have upvoted you, indicating they like the content, and how many spaces that answer has been shared to. From my experience, the answers that have led to fruitful business opportunities tend to have a roughly 1 to 25 or better ratio of upvotes to views. We'll dive into the anatomy of an ideal answer in the next section. As you begin to write your answers, if you want to see what answers are doing the best, you can view that under the Stats tab. If you write answers that get high engagement and appeal to the Cora curation team, they will email these out to subscribers via the Cora digest automatically. You don't need to submit or do anything to get featured here. This is a great way to get more exposure on your content. Although primarily this is based on how many upvotes, shares, or comments that you get, note that avoiding things like profanity or anything that Cora would feel uneasy about resending under their name will be beneficial here. These are some of the basics that will help you begin to find relevant answers, navigate topics, and spaces. Next, we will move to how to put together a high-performing answer. After writing hundreds of answers and observing the top writers, I found a few clear takeaways to get the best performing answers. Use personal experiences. Nearly all of my highest performing answers use a reference to a personal experience to explain a principle, or they're a story in and of themselves. Answers like this build credibility, feel authentic, and are more enjoyable to read, and thus typically get better engagement. Let's start with an example from James Altucher, who has nearly 100 million views on his profile. Break up the information visually with bullet points and bolding. Like any social channel, many people will just view your answers for a few seconds to try and glean any key takeaways. Make sure your answers pass the skim test. Use bolding and italicized words to heighten emphasis around key points. Another top business writer on Quora, Jason Lemkin, does a great job of this in his answers. Avoid excessive linking. Although some examples, like Jason's slide shown before, contain a lot of links, many of Jason's other answers are link light. The general rule of thumb is to not include links to the same domain more than 3 times per answer, and to write up answers without links at 3 to 4x the rate you write up answers with links. This is not a hard, fast rule, but just guidelines when starting out to reduce your chances of running into problems with banned answers. If answers are seen as too self-promotional, they will get removed and you will lose the views. If you have repeated infractions, you can even be permanently banned. Break up the content every 3 to 4 sentences at most. Don't write long paragraph blocks of text. Split up your answers visually. Use images. Answers that use images throughout typically tend to perform better. This is not a prerequisite, but nearly all of my high-performing answers have images, and I've noticed the same for other top writers. Longer pieces tend to perform better. I have found from my experience that answers of 500 plus words tend to perform the best. Be informal. The best performing answers on Cora are almost like you were talking to a friend or a new acquaintance. They should not be like a formal blog post. Cora answers typically strike an almost journaling style. Use evidence. Although the best answers on Cora are often informal, it doesn't hurt to justify any data you provide with a high reputation source like Harvard Business Review or McKinsey. Especially if you include graphs or graphics displaying something around a point, make sure to back it up with evidence. Pay attention to grammar, proofread before you submit. While being informal is good, being sloppy is not. Basic spelling or grammar errors are a surefire way to get people to take your answers less seriously. make sure you do a proofread after composing each answer before you hit submit. Avoid copying one of your Quora answers for another question. Oftentimes on Quora, you might notice a handful of very similar questions. It can be tempting to just copy one answer and use it for 5 to 10 questions. I can tell you from extensive experience that Quora detects when you do this, and the copies will get a tiny sliver of the views of the original. If you don't cite the original answer, you can also have your answers removed. Avoid being self-promotional. Although not as strict as platforms like Reddit, Quora answers that are specifically geared around your product or service tend to not perform well. Instead, I recommend using your service among other options and keep the focus educational, or have the link to your service naturally incorporated as part of an argument or statement versus the thrust of the whole piece. Take a unique stance or provide an alternative angle to the mainstream. For many popular questions, there are hundreds of other answers, so it's key to stand out. I often find providing a unique perspective or a different angle on an issue is a good way to get more views, upvotes, and shares. Carve out your niche. The most successful writers on Quora tend to become known in a certain space. Jason Lemkin, for instance, always talks about SaaS, VPs of sales, and M&A, mergers and acquisitions. Decide what niche you have both extensive experience in and the ability to write engaging and differentiated content around and make a name for yourself there. When starting a business answer off, I will often try and provide a bit of context before I launch into my personal experience with a topic, like I did with this answer below. I think reading successful business answers is helpful. I've curated a handful for you to evaluate. Module 3, Questions and Analytics. When I set out to write this module, I figured I would start with a deep dive into the top business answers on Quora, and I would dissect them. I began to search and find answers on business-related topics with 100+ upvotes and hundreds of thousands or millions of views. Then, I took a look at how many followers the related questions had, how many answers the questions had, what word counts were on these different answers, and I started to get data like what is shown below. If you're staring at that and wondering what the data says, well, it looks pretty noisy to me. There was not a clear consensus after reviewing hundreds of answers about an ideal follower to answer ratio, word count, or number of topics to best target. We could see narrative/personal style answers were the most successful, but that is more of a how to write a good answer, like the module above, versus something to help us find good questions. What made the data even messier is Quora allows boosts or paid promotions on their answers. So someone could spend $100 and get 50,000 views or more on an answer, causing the numbers to be artificially inflated and thus not good for us to analyze in terms of helping you find the right questions to target. I looked for outside insights to supplement my experience, like the top-ranked result for how to write the best Quora answers, and found some useful articles I will include in the resource section. The author advises until you have over 1,000 followers to not answer questions with less than 10 followers. I think that advice is broadly speaking true, although true for new people to Quora, not necessarily established authors. As you'll notice from the data table I posted, several of those had follow counts under 10. But the question is why? The answer lies in how many views the question itself is getting. There's a correlation between the more followers a question has and the more actual views a question has. If you go to any question on Quora, you can see how many views the question has received by clicking on the 3 dots next to the question and selecting View Stats and Log. This will then show you the total number of views on an answer and if it has recently been followed, a good metric around whether there is current engagement happening on the question. Analyzing questions now, instead of answers, I was able to glean some good takeaways that Quora users can use to optimize their time and select the best questions to answer. Number 1, focus on questions with over 100,000 total views. And number 2, focus on questions with a recent follow within the last 48 hours. The reason the second bit is important is questions can go stale. You might have a question that received a lot of attention because it was timely, but since has not gotten a lot of searches. Overall, it seems like the more followers on a question, irrespective of ratio of followers to answers, still gives you a better chance of getting high views. Note that I'm still a bit dubious of this, as it makes sense that the more answers, the harder it is for someone to find your less popular answer, but the data I'm looking at seems to show a strong correlation between just followers and views, as long as the question hasn't gone stale. So how do you find these questions that have high view numbers in the first place? Think about what Quora is, a Q&A website. Popularity is based on how much people search for things. What do you think people search more? Why do some startups fail? Or why do some businesses that sell athletic gear fail in the first 5 years? Pretty obvious, right? So think about what people search and try to look up possible questions that align with those more popular searches. The other piece of this is that writing on Quora, kind of like writing anywhere on the web, is a momentum game. If you write a lot of great content that gets traction for your website blog, for instance, Google's algorithms will note you have a higher click-through rate, longer average time spent on page, high levels of traffic, etc. And thus, when you publish new content, it'll rank higher in the results. Quora works in the same way. Quora wants to show readers the best quality answers. The more you get good engagement, the more Quora will put you into people's feeds, and the more people will be requesting you specifically to answer questions. There is no magic bullet answer here, but just note that it takes time to build your reputation. Once you do though, all your answers on any follow count of questions or word count will start to get more visibility, and you'll see views and engagement tick up. Also, remember that while some of these tips might help you find slightly more applicable questions, at the end of the day, you will succeed on Quora by answering the things you know. The things you know are the ones you can leverage the best personal examples around, and the ones you will appear as an expert opinion on. Pro tip. There's a free Quora plugin called Q Answers that allows you to click on any question, and it will provide a quick view on monthly visitors, so you don't have to click in to find it, and then even provides an opportunity score based on monthly views, number of answers, and number of topics related to the question. In general, I found this opportunity ranking score to be a bit imperfect, but easily being able to see the total views and average monthly views without having to drill down is a huge time saver. It looks like Q Answers makes their money from offering to actually write answers for you in an almost agency-style format. Module 4, networking and relationship development. Although Quora has driven companies that I work for plenty of direct business, that is not the most valuable part of Quora. The most valuable part of Quora for me has been around networking and relationships. Through Quora, I've gained incredible content partnerships, gotten onto podcasts, webinars, and gotten business insights from industry leaders. These networking opportunities have led to remarkable growth for the organization I work with now, Bonjoro. Some of these relationships were initiated by me through outreach to people where I felt there was a good alignment between our business audiences. If I saw an author whose business I felt I could write a great guest blog for, I would reach out using Quora's message feature. Note that being able to message someone with the message feature won't show in all profiles. It's a setting some people turn on and some turn off. If you run across authors you admire or who seem like a good content fit, you can reach out to them by clicking on their name or their answer, which will take you to their profile where you can message them. Prospecting and outreach on Quora is substantially less overcrowded than, say, LinkedIn, giving you an opportunity to not get lost in the noise. Another option is engagement on their answers. Start to follow an author's answers and comment frequently to build name recognition. Then segue to a potential collaboration from there. Ideally, again, you would message them, but if they have that feature turned off, you may need to soft pitch the collaboration opportunity in the comments. A way of doing this might be in a response to a great answer. You put, "This is an amazing answer, first name. We run a webinar at," insert your company, where we talk about, insert topic area, at length every other Thursday. I would love to have you on sometime. You could use this variant to pitch a guest blog collaboration or many other angles. An important component of success is trying to get them on something of yours, your blog, webinar, podcast, etc., before you ask to get on something of theirs. It always works better that way. But what if you want to network but don't know where to find people? Try searching topics that seem relevant. Type in things like business strategy and then look at the authors answering those questions. Here you can find influential business leaders and reach out to them about collaboration. Because people on Quora are much less inundated with messages than, say, Twitter or LinkedIn, you'll typically have a better chance of getting connected with them. Here are the best ideas I have for growing your business through Quora via networking and relationships. Guest blogging. Ask if you could write an expert insights article for their blog around a relevant topic and invite them to write on your business blog as well. Remember to make the pitch focus around them and their audience, not you and yours, if you want to win them over. Podcasts. Podcasts are a great way to get your brand and message out in front of thousands. Just remember to watch their podcast in advance, preferably several episodes, so you have ample content when you pitch why you or someone in your organization would be a great fit. Webinars. If you host a webinar, even if it's small, start by inviting the influencer onto your show and let them know you'll promote it out across all your channels to your small but engaged audience. Then ideally, try and see if you can position yourself as a product expert to get on their webinar as well. Get companies to pay you for answers where you mention them. This is a creative idea that I came up with recently and it's been working great. Typically, it requires you to have a bit of an established presence before starting, but not mandatory if you write great answers. The answer includes a lot of services that I am talking about within it. Then I reach out to those companies and ask if they want to pay me to promote that answer. With a great answer that includes a handful of services, it can be an awesome way to create win-wins with other companies. Freelance. Based on marketing answers I've written, I've had agencies offer me $100 an hour or more, a few of which I have taken. And I've also found people who are able to do freelance work for my company. Cora has a huge community of talented designers, growth experts, and writers. If you see a good opportunity, reach out and make the connection. Answer questions asking for help. Sometimes you'll see people ask questions around services or topics you might offer, like, how much do you charge for a Facebook ads consult? This can lead to great business deals. Here's an example that led to a few projects for me. Make sure to include a contact email in your response. Module 5. Cora paid services. Cora gives users the ability to run promoted posts, where you can advertise an answer you've written in certain keyword relevant areas, or you can run a unique ad, i.e. it's just an ad, not related to one of your answers. The layout is campaigns at the top level, then ad sets below that, and ads below that. This is very similar to how Facebook's ad hierarchy works, if you're familiar with that. Cora initially offers you the choice of running a conversion, app install, traffic, or awareness-focused ad. I only have experience with traffic and conversion-focused ads. Cora will give you a pixel you can place on the thank you page after checkout, again like a Facebook ad, so you can track paid conversions. An important step to getting the most bandwidth out of your paid ads is using the Cora pixel. This will allow you to retarget and create custom audiences. Again, exactly like Facebook ads. You can set up the Cora pixel under Cora ads. Once set up, you will have the ability to create a custom audience based on traffic you've driven to your pixeled webpage, a lookalike audience based on an existing list of customers, or a list match, which will try and target a list of, say, prospects or leads. From my experience and those I've chatted with who also sell B2B products, here are some of the best ways to leverage Cora ads. Start with a lookalike audience. Cora has advanced algorithms that are good at making sense of high intent data. If you have more than 1,000 customers, you can upload a CSV and use a 1 to 3% lookalike audience. This will be the best targeting I have found. Especially with conversion style ads, this is where you'll get the best results. Use retargeting. If you have a highly relevant or targeted piece of content, drive channel specific traffic to it through topics or keywords targeting, and then use retargeting to close the deals. Note that you can add a full list of topics together with the bulk ad button in the top right. This is how I start many of my ads. I would drive traffic to a relevant case study or blog page, and then use targeting around topics or keywords like membership site, courses, online courses. Then I would run a lot of smaller tests, fine-tuning the interest targeting. Once I got a clear winner, like the 7.58% click-through rate ad, I would then stick with that one moving forward. After that ad had run, I would use the retargeting options around that web traffic to run conversion-style ads to the same grouping. Run a promoted answer. If you have an answer you have done that is very relevant in regards to driving a business result back to your company, you can also promote an answer directly. Although my Google Analytics data tends to find these are worse at driving actual sales, I have gotten sales from them before. And it also has the advantage of getting you loads of more views, upvotes, and shares on your answers, which helps your overall account. Also, clicks, defined as people just opening up your answer and reading it, are typically quite cheap. Make your copy or image count. So the first thing to note, if you're running a static image style, is the technical parameters. You don't get a lot of characters, so you have to make an impact. The example from Cora's Q&A documents on their website is a good one. Here is what this ad does well. Number 1, professional image. Whether you are on Quora, Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter, the rules around images are the same. Use a professional photograph of the actual thing you're selling for best results. Header that grabs attention. For the header, you either want to create affinity, like they do here, appealing to someone who identifies as a modern traveler and likes the idea of smart luggage, or you want to be provocative. One ad that did well that I ran had the header of "Email is dead," followed by a quick body statement explaining how video emailing is the future. Drive action. Notice how the ad above ends with "Find great deals today." This is a critical part of the ad. Make sure your copy encourages them to take a specific next action. Here are some ad examples. The general advice from the Cora website is also worth a quick browse. Just like with any ad platform, running successful ads will take some experimentation to find the right angle to speak to your audience. The great part about Cora ads, though, is the platform is still far less competitive than places like Facebook, Twitter, or Google. You can use this to your advantage to get cheaper clicks and more eyes on your product. When it comes to bid amounts, I have tested this extensively and have found that the optimized bid amount that Cora automatically generates is the best performing. So feel free to test here, but my recommendation is to just use the recommended CTR or impressions bid here. Because of the nature of Cora and growth in the mobile space overall, I strongly recommend to run ads targeting both desktop and mobile users. Closing thoughts. Cora as a social advertising platform has many unique advantages. First off, you're able to accumulate written long-form content and genuinely become a topic expert in a way that is far easier for interested prospects to navigate than on Twitter or Facebook. In the business realm, you begin to recognize the names of expert investors or leaders in marketing just based on their answers popping up in your feeds. Cora is also still growing rapidly. While some of the top Cora writers still write around personal or casual topics, the landscape of Cora for business is slowly gaining speed. As noted before, because it is still not crowded from an advertiser's perspective, it presents a lot of unique opportunities. Cora is a platform that encourages casual, personal narratives that don't require extensive research for each one. People on Cora want to hear about your first-hand experiences, not just read highly polished blog articles like they can find in a million other places. Use the lessons above and the examples provided to create a foundation of how to write on, search, and navigate the platform's interface. If you're leveraging Cora in a business context, remember to follow the spaces provided and become an active contributor to expand your reach. Thank you for following through these modules with me and helping go from basics to advanced on Cora. The next steps are to get really specific on how Cora can benefit you and your business. While I provided a handful of sample spaces that have been valuable for me, you need to go in and find the spaces and the topics that are going to be most beneficial for your brand. These assignments will help you hone in on that target audience and help you make the most impact out of Cora.